Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are talking about the fascinating function of something in your body that affects your mind. It brings calm, clarity, it affects your sleep, it affects your movement, it affects your mood, and it affects your stress response. Today we are talking about the vagus nerve, and I am so excited to get into it today with my besties, Wendy, Zoog, and Dr. Lindsey Clancey. Hey guys, I'm so
Hi.
glad you're here. Yay.
Thanks for having
We,
us.
yes, Wendy Zoog and Dr. Lindsey Clancey are experts in their fields. Wendy is the KALOS Experience, the founder and the owner. Her motto is breathe, move, and feel. It's an exercise class that just makes you feel amazing inside and out. It's absolutely my number one choice for movement and exercise. And Dr. Lindsey Clancey is the owner and founder of RC Functional Medicine, MD. And okay, so Dr. Lindsey, let's go ahead and kick off with the actual anatomy of the vagus nerve so we can understand how it looks in our body.
Yeah. So the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It arises from the brainstem, and its main function is controlling the parasympathetic nervous system of the body. So it's part of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is made up of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And so it starts in the brainstem. It's a family of nerve fibers. There's kind of an older, more primitive nerve fiber that's not myelinated. That's called the dorsal vagus nerve. And then there's a newer nerve fiber that's myelinated, and it's called the vagus or the ventral vagus. It starts in the brainstem. It does have some functions higher up. But most of the vagus nerve is actually below the clavicle, so it controls our internal organs, and they call it the vagus nerve because it's derived from the word vagrant, because it wanders throughout the body.
Nice. And just to be clear, the sympathetic nervous system response is more of a stress response, and parasympathetic is more like a rest and digest response.
So that's a really good question. So 25 years ago, Stephen Porges did a lot of research around the vagus nerve and discovered that there are actually two different states of the vagus nerve. So remember I was talking about the dorsal and the ventral. So the ventral vagus state is more of that rest and digest. It's where you feel open and social and safe. And it's really, I think it's a newer nerve because it came when we were starting to really need to be in company of other people to be safe, have communities and socialization. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how staying in that ventral vagus state most of the time. You don't ever want to be in it all the time because there's function to be in the other states, but staying in that ventral vagus state is actually, better for your health and well-being and mental and social and emotional. And then there is the dorsal vagus side of your vagus nerve, and that is more of, so have you ever seen a possum, like their reaction when they get scared, they play dead? So that's actually the dorsal vagus kicking into gear. So a lot of people who have had, severe trauma or something like that actually had a similar reaction. So that's the freeze. That's the kind of letting go of sort of, it's still a stress response, still in response to a stressor, but it's not the action of the sympathetic, it's the inaction, it's the freeze.
Ah, interesting. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So I guess I didn't really even think about the evolutionary effect on this part of our response system. So it would be really interesting to know. So you're kind of talking, correct me if I'm wrong, but the dorsal is a little bit more primitive
Yes.
brain, would you
Yeah.
say? Okay, okay.
Yes.
And the ventral is a little bit more as we've evolved, we've learned how to shift how we respond to stress and how we feel safe by being around groups and communities. Okay, I got it.
Yes. The vagus nerve actually, it has a lot of function in terms of our heart rate, our respiration, the way our bronchioles contract or restrict or dilate. It controls our blood flow, so our vascular system. So that's kind of all above the diaphragm. So that's in the thorax, the lung cavity and the thorax. And then below the diaphragm is the viscera. So visceral organs would be like the entire digestive tract, the stomach, and the small intestine, large intestine, the gallbladder, the liver. And there's actually a enormous network of neurons that arises from the vagus nerve called the enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system is responsible for the activity of all of those internal organs in the viscera. And this nervous system actually has more neurons than the spinal cord, which is kind of mind-blowing because you think about how innervated our spinal cord is in terms of that function. The enteric nervous system has more. 80% of the neural input is actually coming from your viscera and moving up towards your brain. And so that's called actually neuroception. So the vagus nerve is sensing the environment internally in the abdomen. It's also sensing our external environment, and it's the way that we kind of sense other people around us, their nervous systems as well. So it's sensing, it's a sensory nerve fiber, and so 80% is coming up. So that's that gut feeling, the butterflies in your stomach, kind of not feeling, when you get a bad feeling about somebody's, nervous system or regulation, that's all the vagus nerve.
That's incredible.
So cool.
That is so cool. So that's something I've always been trying to understand is this gut-brain connection and how, we feel like we have thoughts and feelings in our brain, but we also have thoughts and feelings in our gut. And we've, over the last however many years, we've been talking about this second brain being in our gut. And that's what you're referring to, isn't it? That's just an incredible way of understanding the connection between our brain and our gut and how we're going through life every day. So, Wendy, you and I have done yoga together for a million years, it feels like, since a very long time ago. So you and I have a little bit more of a yogi perspective on the anatomy and the energy centers and how our energy centers in our mind affect our energy centers in our gut and in our root. And will you talk a little bit about the anatomy? We know that they all go together. We know that the yoga goes together with the Western, with the Eastern, and the physiology and the energy. They all overlap and they all intertwine. So you and I have spoke about this before, how the vagus nerve feels very similar to the energy center that we recognize in the yoga system. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So you're referring to the chakras and the Sushumna energy lines.
Yes.
So we'll just start with the word Sushumna is basically an energy channel. It just runs from the bottom of your tailbone. It's similar to your spine, but it's just a tube that goes from the bottom of your tailbone all the way up to the top of your crown. And within that are your chakras. And you've got 7 chakras, and they're just wheels. Think about circles. We'll have some photos we can show you too. There's 7 wheels that start down in the base of your pelvic floor, into your abdomen, into your, actually it's the root chakra right there on the tailbone, then it's in your pelvic floor, then it's in your solar plexus, your abdomen, then it's in your heart, another wheel's in your throat, another wheel's in your third eye, and the top wheel's in your crown. So all those wheels have different processes that they take care of in order to help keep everything flowing, from emotions to the way we interact in the world, from aches and pains in our body, digestion, romance, emotional involvement, lots of different things. And you could get into a whole slew of things with chakras. But basically what you're what ends up happening with the Shishinu, the main energy channel line up the body, is when, like Lindsey said, when you have those gut feelings, or when the energy wheels, the chakra wheels, are not spinning correctly. They're not. Think about a roundabout on a highway, or like in Vale Village, or around the Meyer Fountain or whatever. The traffic's flowing freely around it, but when you get congested and it gets clogged up, the wheel or the roundabout's not working. So that energy gets trapped. Oftentimes, depending on how we handle our stress, or what's taking place with us physically, or what we've eaten, it can affect some of those energy wheels. So you want all wheels spinning. You want all the good energy from the bottom of the spine moving up through the top of the head, so that you feel a better connection. If you're clogged up, or traffic congestion in some of those energy wheels, the messages aren't quite as clear, and then you get disconnected from those specific energy wheel parts of your body. The way it starts from the brain and moves down, similar to vagus nerve, the gut reactions, the way that we the senses that we feel, as same as the vagus nerve. So that's perhaps the best way I can integrate those from an Eastern and a Western.
Yes, absolutely. And kind of like Dr. Lindsey was saying, they work together, like, and they're communicating with each other, and they're working together, and affected by our thoughts, affected by our gut, like they're all flowing together. I love the analogy you used about a traffic circle, because nobody likes getting stuck in that traffic circle, because there's people coming in, there's people going out, there's people trying to change lanes, and if you get jammed in there, nothing is flowing, and then what happens? Like anxiety, frustration, irritation.
Right.
So that
system's clogged. You got to let those. Yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking too about, when we think about intuition, those gut feelings, if there is something that's not working kind of to bring that up correctly, sometimes people have what they think is, intuition, and it's really anxiety or worry. And it's that the gut feeling isn't like, processing correctly, and so there's like a misfiring. I wonder if that has something to do with the chakras not kind of in flow.
I mean, I'm sure you could find something that would make it. No, that does make sense. These things are fascinating in the fact that they definitely tie together. We all three know this. This is why we're doing this today. Without a doubt, Linz, I know exactly what you're describing, and I've probably felt multiple times, through the years, where it's just, I'm reading something wrong because there's something not right inside that's happening in me. Yeah.
And so many times we ignore the signals. So many times we ignore the feeling, either the gut feeling or the thoughts. We ignore those signals, when it'd be great to start paying attention, because if there is a backup in the energy flow, we can start there and we're going to talk a little bit about how to bring balance again to the vagus nerve. But you girls already kind of answered my next question, which was not only what does the vagus nerve do, but how do we know when it's not working, and how do we know when it's not activated? And that's something that I don't know if we can, how to talk about this exactly, but would you say, and this is a question for both of you, Dr. Lindsey, let's start with your kind of idea about this, is the dorsal and the ventral vagus, are they both working all of the time? Are we turning one off? Are we turning one on? Are we trying to activate? Are we trying to calm? What would you say about that?
I think that there is a primary state that we're in all the time. So so I think what's really helpful is to try and bring some awareness as to what state we're in. So, I think about, the sympathetic nervous system. So, an example of that, where you really need to mobilize your energy, and you need to, basically save yourself or save somebody else from danger. I think about, and this happens occasionally, like while you're driving, if you get cut off or you almost get into a car accident, that feeling of the stress hormones and cortisol coursing through your bloodstream. And so like one verb or one word that I would use to describe that would be like jolt. And so when I think about the sympathetic nervous system, it's like jolt. And there's a use for it. We don't want your sympathetic nervous system to go away. You need to have it. If you get really sick, you are reliant on your sympathetic nervous system to survive. If you are injured, if you're in some kind of crisis. And so having a word to describe that feeling of when you're in that state, I think is very helpful to bring awareness to it. And then when I think about the ventral vagus, I think about really just being in tune with others' emotions and nature and my emotions or my feelings, being open, being flexible. And Wendy used this, probably several weeks back now, but glimmer. So you think about those times where you just like really appreciate another person or appreciate a situation that you're in or how you're feeling in your body. And so I think it's helpful to recognize when you're in that ventral state. And then the dorsal state, sometimes people are in the dorsal state chronically, like in cases of a severe depression, or if you have been under chronic stress, sometimes going into the dorsal state is actually the safest place for you. And it's almost like it is a safety mechanism. It's a stress response. But a lot of people have, low energy or, fatigue, or they're defensive, so they're not open to other people. It's not as flexible. And so recognizing that, I think, is really helpful. The question that you had is, are you in one state all the time? And the answer is no. So if you think about a sports competition, you're actually in your sympathetic state and you're in your ventral state, because you need to understand what's going on in the game, what your part is in it, what other people are doing around you. You might need to be flexible, creative, all those things, but you're also have that sympathetic drive.
I think about like some of the best athletes, they always say, can be laser focused but still quick, where there's this control. They're socially aware, very aware, but they're ready to, quarterbacks, for example, they've got to keep cool, but not too cool, so that they still have that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah,
sorry to
absolutely.
That's like flow, kind of, when you're really like in a flow, you're flexible and you know what's going on and you're in control and you're doing hard things. I think about heart surgeons too, a lot of times, like they're listening to music while they're doing heart surgery, but it's because they're able to access both of those sides and, be, and not just heart surgeons, but, anybody that's in that field. And that's probably a survival, or not a survival, but that's probably one reason why they can continue to do that and sustain that level, because they're able to be flexible and live in those states at the same time.
It also goes back to the energetics of your body and how it flows and works together, and how these two systems of your nervous system are talking to each other. I thought of something when you were talking about the words, like you were saying the word jolt. I think by saying being in the present moment, but when you are recognizing your feelings and recognizing thoughts you're having, I think that is a great way to talk to your nervous system about what to do. Like, are you supposed to be freaking out right now, or is this just something that I've created, like a perceived stress? And sometimes I'll catch myself, I'll say, I'm having a fair amount of anxiety right now. And and I'll say it in kind of a calm way. And then of course I'll take a big sigh. I just, I start noticing myself in these patterns. Of course, I want to get out of it right away, because that's, our nature. We want to feel safe and we want to get out of that anxiety mode. You also said something about how we mobilize in order to listen to the message, listen to the information our body's giving us. What are you supposed to do? And Wendy, this brings us right into what I wanted to talk about with you and KALOS, and the beautiful, amazing way that you curate these classes to physically mobilize our body, but also mobilizing our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions and it's everything. It's a community connection, it's the breath, it's the movement. So I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are directly affecting our stress response, our nervous system, our vagus nerve, and also along with that, the chakra system and the Sushumna, and we're balancing that in some magical way. And I don't know how you do it, but will you talk a little bit about how, I mean, it just makes you feel so good. So,
well, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very
please
much.
tell us a little bit about how you do that.
Well, we'll start with the tagline: breathe, move, feel. Breathing is the most you got to make sure breath awareness. You use the word awareness, mindfulness. That's where it all starts. Just like you said, sometimes I'm having some anxiety right now. That first, you have awareness. Breathing. Second, movement. Blow out the cobwebs. Get the wheels spinning. Be more aware of what's happening when you create movement. You're immediately going to start to move, increasing your heart rate. You're going to get your blood flowing. You're going to get, it reduces inflammation, all systems on. And then feel. Feel is the part where we either hands to heart or feel our feet. We feel something where we remind ourselves what's showing up right here. Is it good? Is it bad? Recognize it. And then remind yourself you're okay. You're calm. You're safe. You're in your body. You breathe or you feel. So that's the reason why the tagline came out that way: breathe, move, feel, in that order. And the way that the classes, you say magical, I do think that oftentimes a lot of people don't understand or appreciate the value of more awareness of how your body moves with your breathing. Yoga is not, I always tell students, it's not about being flexible. It's more about connecting your breath with movement. And I do know this, that whenever you move, not only do you open up all the systems and you get the blood flowing and you reduce inflammation, but you also release, the way that I curate the classes is to first connect with how your muscles and your tendons and your bones and your joints are feeling in movement with your breath. And then we get your heart rate up. And then when you come back down, that's where your body goes, oh my gosh, like Lindsey said, you have to have that sympathetic, that's important, that's triggered, because you have to have it for the energy that we do jumping jacks or cardiovascular work. But then have the moment to pause, to feel, and that at that point, when you've increased your heart rate, your body excretes these neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, oxytocin, these protein enzymes, these things that are good. They feel good. Why do runners go on their runner high? Why do we, when we're nursing, that oxytocin, that release, the love stuff that comes out and flows through you. And then we kind of build off of that. So it's number one, it's awareness more than anything, Steph. I think that's great that you said that that you talk to yourself about the anxiety, but it's also the breath work. It's also the release of endorphins. It's the reminding yourself, having more awareness. And that word mindfulness, I feel like, is used a lot. But the more you are aware of how you're breathing, what you're feeling, sometimes you're freaking out because maybe you're just thirsty. You have to take a pause. And I guess the whole method behind what I do and how I like to teach is to take you on this journey that helps you recognize what's happening in here and how are you going to show up out there in the real world, because you have a choice each and every time to either respond or react.
Yes,
That's
beautiful. Absolutely. Yes. And I think that that's so interesting, because as I'm listening to you describe it, it helps me realize that, and maybe that is something that is why I do feel like it's so magical, is because of that balanced flow, and because I need those moments of pause in between to kind of bring it back down, feel safe. And to me, it feels like a very balanced balanced exercise, and you get very, very strong, and you get plenty of hard workout. But think of how many times we overdo it, and then we end up getting burned out, and then we're trying to catch up instead of trying to find the balance in it from the very beginning. It's a completely different way of, honoring your body and your
Right.
present moment.
Yeah.
And I think, the music and everything just makes it so fun, and
Thank you.
it does help you be in the present moment.
Oh, I think absolutely. And I think we addressed this a little bit before we got live here about some of the things that tie into Vegas and just your senses alone, from what you feel physically to sound. A lot of the stuff that we do in KALOS and in yoga, when they do chanting or breath work, where the ohms, the vibrations in your throat, that kind of stuff stimulates. It's good for the vagus nerve.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it all weaves in together. That's for sure.
So
And
some of the nerves that arise from the similar place in the brainstem where the vagus nerve arises are in fact responsible for social cues in our face. So they're connected to our hearing. So we're able to listen to the person more fully. They're connected to our facial expression, so we're more open and we're able to receive a message. The other person, it's not something that anybody is conscious of. It's something that you notice, your nervous system notices about somebody else's. So it's, it controls our vision, our hearing, even the way we're swallowing, the way we're breathing. And then when we're, in our ventral vagus state, we're actually digesting better. So digestion, and I know you're going to talk about this, but it starts at kind of the thought of food, then, food preparation and smell. And the vagus nerve is actually responsible for preparing our bodies for, eating and digesting food. So it's, responsible for stomach acid secretion, saliva secretion, stomach acid secretion, and then pancreatic enzyme secretion that's like lower down in the abdomen. Our bile, so the way our bile is secreted to digest fats. And then the movement of food through our intestinal tract is all, basically governed by this enteric nervous system and the vagus nerve. And we have to be in our parasympathetic state for that to work very well. And so, if you're in kind of the fight or flight state, sometimes you have to go to the bathroom or something before you give a big talk. That's because of that. I have a kind of funny thing where when I was little and I would watch an uncomfortable scene with my parents, we're watching a movie or something, there's a sex scene, every time without fail, you can hear me swallow. It's like that, that was not a safe situation for me. That was my body saying,
No.
get out of here. So it's basically taking cues from the environment and your body, and that's how kind of your vagus nerve is functioning.
Yeah, I'm glad we're going this direction, because we do tend to, and I have a hilarious story about one time when I was giving a talk at Wendy's studio that I'll have to share another time. But
Okay.
let's just say that
Can't wait.
digestion and stress response and our brain, all of that is very, very closely connected. So that's so interesting that you just said that. We can look in through the eyes of Ayurveda at all of these functions in our body. Like pitta is the fire that digests your food, and pitta governs the eyes. So when you start by looking at your food, that's one way to start to turn on your digestive juices from the Ayurvedic perspective, which lines up perfectly with what the vagus nerve is doing. And then also smelling your food gives your body the signal that food is coming. Your saliva starts to get going, and that is preparing to start the digestive process right here in your mouth. And then also tells your stomach food's coming. And So all of these things are happening because the vagus nerve is on course, right? Or what would you say, like on track? So what happens though is we often get stressed, and we're the vata energy is what moves the food through our system. But if vata energy is too high, like stress and anxiety and action is too high, then we miss all of these signals, which could be very similar to what happens when the vagus nerve is in a sympathetic state, right? Because when you're in a stress mode, or you're in survival mode, or attack mode, or like quarterback mode, or surgery mode, as you both used as great examples, we're not worried about digesting any food when we're doing that stuff. Like, we're not in the digestion mode. We're not stopping for a snack, like your body's not turning on the digestive system. And so what happens is we get so busy in life, and we kind of create those scenarios in our day to day. So we're eating on the run, we're eating while we're driving, we're watching a scary movie while we're having dinner, we're checking email over lunch, we're responding to text messages while we're, grabbing a quick salad. And all of those things are giving we're skipping the signals to our body to digest. So that's just so fascinating to me, because we really bypass this beautiful sensory system that we have to turn on our digestion. And when we pause and take a deep breath, and we give our body those signals, it's time to digest food, then we're actually nourishing our tissues. And then when we're nourishing our tissues, then we have more energy, and then we're more willing to go exercise and work out and be outside. And then we're also able to have more connection in our life as well. Isn't that, that's so cool. And, even if it's as simple as sitting down at the table while you're eating, or having a lovely, very calm conversation at the dinner table. And I think in our modern day, we're skipping a lot of that. So that's something that we can easily try to start incorporating. But I love that we've made the connection here to turning on the different sides of the vagus nerve and how it's benefiting us. Yeah. And also, like Wendy was saying, with the breathing and the moving and the feeling, you're doing that in the class, in the fitness, and we can take all of those things that we're practicing on the mat into our life. And if we even want to just be more specific, into our digestion, because when all of those cobwebs are blown out and the blood is flowing and everything is, getting that good blood flow and getting that good messaging, then everything works better. So we wanted to talk about some tips, and I'll just go ahead and go first, since I was just talking about digestion. And it's using your senses to eat. It's like, if anytime you can get in the kitchen and do any kind of cooking, that's also a great way to get it going. Like preparing your food, smelling the spices, feeling the vegetables, cutting the meat, whatever it may be, tossing the rice in the strainer. Like all of these sounds, sights, smells, everything is sending your body this, get prepared, because I'm sending you food and nourishment, and I'm using my senses to create those signals. And you're also then giving the vagus nerve that information to turn on digestion. Like this is rest and digest time. And one thing I wanted to just add to that as well is chewing our food is so incredibly important. Yeah. And that's another thing we forget to do. Because our bodies are amazing, and we can gulp down food and it doesn't bother us for a really long time until it becomes a problem. I just am obsessed with how the vagus nerve and the digestion and the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, the intestines, when you have this good nourishment and you're giving your digestion this beautiful food and you're letting it know it's coming, then what messages are being sent up to your brain? So 80% of what we're eating in our nourishment is sending messages to our brain via the vagus nerve. Why not give it amazing nutrition to increase the beautiful messages that we're sending? So love how that all came together. I love learning that's the connection, that's that gut brain connection. And it just we all know that we need to eat good, clean, nourishing food, whole foods. But again, like bringing the senses into the whole process is so important, and the chewing. Wendy, what would you say? I know that you teach this every single day, but what would you say to people to help them access the vagus nerve, or calm the vagus nerve, or activate the vagus nerve?
Well, I think the easiest one you can do anywhere is to notice take some good deep breaths. And so I heard something a couple weeks ago that I'd never heard, slow and low. Slow and low, so meaning that when you inhale, think about breathing in slowly. Low meaning down into the bottom of the belly. And then exhaling out through the mouth, through the nose. Ideally, if you can inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose, that's ideal. And then making it really even not complicated, but you can just inhale to the count of 2, exhale to the count of 4. The longer the exhale, that's going to give you, put you more into that state of relaxation, okay? Easy, seated, standing. Relax your arms. You can place wherever you feel most comfortable with an upright spine. Inhale to the count of 2 through your nose. Think about breathing slow and low down into your belly. Exhale to the count of 4. Super easy. That's one. There's a lot we can do with just our eye movement that can make a huge difference. And these are the salamander exercises, and we're going to tap into those at a later date, something down the road. But I'll leave you guys just with that one simple thing, because if you really and truly can just take, and if you can do it 4, 5, 10 times, breathing is key. And again, don't stop here. Think about low, slow and low, and then a longer exhale. And that could be an inhale to the count of 1 and an exhale to the count of 2.
I
Very
love that.
Easy.
I love that, because again, super simple, but we forget.
Super simple.
Yeah.
Like when you go, I'm feeling some anxiety. Part of the practice of KALOS too. That's the practice of noticing, take a few breaths, proceed.
Some people really have a hard time breathing low. Is there an instruction you can, I mean, because like even sometimes we're always sucking our belly in all the time.
Yeah, don't do that. don't do that. Hands on your ribs. And really, if you can actually, when you inhale, you can physically, and I can kind of show you guys, like your ribs, I put them down here, so you can physically, when you inhale, it's inevitable, your ribs are going to move out and up. Okay, your diaphragm's going to go down, so you've got this incredible gift of all the air that can come all up through here, but down into your abdomen as well. So if you want to hold your hands here and just kind of practice that way, you just don't want to stop your breath here. So an analogy that I loved, a pelvic floor therapist, girlfriend of mine used, when you breathe in through your nose, it's like you're filling up a cup, right? Or, so you start from the bottom, that starts to fill, and then it moves up and out, right? You can also put a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, and you can actually feel your chest rise, then your belly fill.
I feel like that is so calming to your nervous
it is.
system.
Oh, the touch, this can make all the difference, because again, it's a receptor in your body going, this to me is I'm calm, I'm safe. I mean, that's what we do. It's like, this is a shield that you're putting on you, like a protection shield in a good way. Yeah, that's my tip.
I love it. I love it. It's perfect, and you can do it anywhere, anytime,
Always
place.
available, and
Always
it's free.
available. Beautiful. Okay, Dr. Lindsey, what kind of tip do you have to share with us?
And I'm going to piggyback off of kind of what you're saying to Wendy is, when you're doing this in class and you're, you have increased your sympathetic, and then you do this and you're really supporting your parasympathetic nervous system. Every single time you do that, you are teaching your nervous system how to do that. And so it's that action that will create, and it will make it easier for you to enter this ventral vagal state, which is the parasympathetic state. And so it's good to do it, when you're stressed or whatever, but if you continue to practice this, it'll actually like get to be where you can enter your ventral vagus state like very quickly. You can have that awareness and get into it more quickly.
The fact that you can teach your nervous system how to respond, and what a tool to have, that we are in charge. I hear Wendy say that too. You're in charge.
Yeah.
Connect with your breath. Feel your body. Okay, great.
Well, I know I've talked to you about, both of you, about my favorite book. Oh, it's going to be backwards, but it's called Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve. And there are some exercises in this book that I find are profoundly helpful in accessing that ventral vagus state. If you practice something, it gets easier. You know, at first you might have a little bit of challenge with this. You have to keep doing it so your body understands what it's doing. And so it's actually using some of your upper cranial nerves and the movements to align or co-regulate with your vagus nerve. And so you utilize those nerves that are involved with safety and socialization to enter into this ventral vagus state. So I'm going to talk you guys through it. I'm going to be sitting because I do it, you know, multiple times a day, and I'm at the point where I can do it when I'm sitting. Most people, including my children and, like, you know, most people that are starting out, you really probably should be laying down. But so I'll be sitting, but you'll be laying down kind of on your back, and you put your hands behind your head and you just look kind of straight forward. And so you look straight forward and take in a couple of breaths. I'm going to speed it up a little bit just so you get the idea. But you take a couple of deep breaths, and then without moving your face or your chin, keep your face pointing straight ahead. Just move your eyes to one side, and you can keep them there. Sometimes it's up to, a minute or maybe even a little bit longer. But the point is to keep it there until you have a yawn, a sigh, a double inhale, some kind of difference in your breathing pattern. And mine, at this point, that's happening pretty quickly for me, just because I've done it so many times. And then you look forward after that happens, and some people stop and they move their heads from right to left and kind of reset, and then you do it on the other side until you get that yawn, sigh, double inhale, deep exhale, whatever it is. It's going to be a difference in your breathing pattern.
Listen to you yawn.
Yeah. And then you look forward.
I know I might be here all day.
And I do this, I always do it before, anything like this, where I'm really going to have to be able to be attuned with the people that I'm talking to before I go to dinner with friends. If I'm feeling a little on edge, if my kids are misbehaving, if they're just annoying me, I don't know, I go in my room, whatever they're doing. But if their actions are somehow affecting me in my nervous system and putting me into that stress state, I notice that, I go into my room, do this, and then I'm able to come out and really regulate and co-regulation. So my ventral vagus nervous system is able to communicate with their nervous systems and show them safety and flexibility and things like that. So it just helps you relate with other people too.
Beautiful. So we have literally hit everything. I mean, everyone, this is like the magic that we just solved all of your problems. We just solved everybody's problems. It's so simple. It's breathing and pausing and putting hands on your body. It's doing the very basic exercise. It's eating, using all of your senses and feeding your body good food and preparing your body for a digestion. And it will totally change your nervous system. It helps you figure out how to regulate your nervous system, turning it on, turning it off, how it's operated in your body, how the energy centers are operated in your body. And then, Lindsey, I love how you just brought this in. It shifts how we are showing up in our family and with the people that we love. And it's the best mommy time out I've ever heard. I'm going to just, excuse me, I'll be right back. I'm going to go in my room for a second. Or, excuse me, I'm going to KALOS class. I'm walking out the door and I'm going to reset and move my body and feel better. And, I might even say sometimes you need to sit down and eat a meal by yourself in pure quiet and really sit your butt down in the chair and just do one thing. So honestly, I mean, I really feel like we nailed it today, because we know we know how the world is a very, very stressful place, and there's so much sadness, and there's so much trauma, and there's so many horrible things in the news right now. And the best possible thing we can do is regulate ourselves, and so that we can show up and we can be supportive to our community and to each other and to our family, and especially for our kids, giving them a firm foundation to be able to understand their nervous system, because our kids are stressed out all day too. And these three things that this entire talk and all these three things that we just discussed, anybody can do it. We can teach it to our kids. We can encourage them to tap into, how their body is responding. So God, so awesome, you guys. Anything you'd like to say as we kind of wrap up? Is there any final words you'd like to share?
I can't tell you how many times I sit at my table that I'm sitting at right now, and I want to race, because I love to eat in my car. And I sit my ass down and I take off my shoes and I feel my feet and I eat. And I don't have anything going on. I force myself just to eat, because you've taught me that from repetition of reading your emails. Linz, your salamander, well, so much of what you've taught me, but this, I didn't explain to you enough today. That has been a transformation on a level, like, I can't even tell you. I think I'm so, breathing and all that for me it's almost like I've kind of, I need to really reboot. This has been my reboot. I love that. I love that. So thank you.
That is amazing. Good.
I can't wait to do that in the workshop too.
So we are so grateful that everyone was here to join us today. And if you happen to be in the Kansas City area, and Wendy and Lindsey are going to teach a live workshop and do lots of these exercises on November 4th at the KALOS space in Kansas City. So I'm so sad that I can't be there, because I could hop in the car, I suppose, and just come for the day.
We'd love it.
But,
We'd love it.
So yes, if anyone who's watching this now, if the timing happens to work out and you can pop into the live workshop, please do. And I just am so grateful to have this time with you amazing, smart, incredible gals. I feel very lucky. Keeping good company is very, very high on my list as far as regulating my nervous system. And we could talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours. And I always hope that we'll continue this journey in health and wellness, because I love how each of our dynamic perspectives flow together so nicely. And I will just quickly say, Wendy, you can be found at KALOS Experience on Instagram, and that's a great way to reach out to you and DM you, or that will connect people to your website. And then Dr. Lindsey, you are at RC Functional MD.
Yes.
Perfect, on Instagram, and that's also, both of you, that's your websites as well. So to all of our friends, please reach out, and I'll also have all of this information in the notes with lots of resources if you want to learn more about the vagus nerve. But please go live to the KALOS and check that out, and connect with us, because we sure do love sharing this information and the transformational opportunities for us all to tap into a new place in our life of health and wellness. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and I just love this work. I'm so grateful to do it with both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
So
Steph.
thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.